Hello YouTube, this is Mike. Today I was wanting to make a video going over the recent changes to Trapper, specifically focusing in on the add-on changes. If you didn't know, Trapper's kit was changed. Typically before the change, you spawned with one bear trap. The amount of traps that spawned was completely random. Now it's always a set. There's always 8 traps every time you load into a match. You'll always start with 2 traps instead of 1, which is huge. And there's always going to be 6 on the environment for you to go and pick up. That's huge. Before, I know a lot of people, new players might be joining, they won't know this, and they might not even play Trapper. But before, it was pretty much mandatory to take one of the bag add-ons. One of them survived the update. This used to be a yellow, but this add-on was almost mandatory. If you were just casually playing Trapper, this was an add-on you used almost on the regular. Luckily, that is no longer the case. This add-on was made base kit, and it is by far one of the greatest changes I think to come from this patch. It's definitely enhanced just all of Trapper's add-ons in general, and it's definitely made a lot more things viable on him, and I think it's definitely opened up a lot of avenues as far as builds, and I think it's just amazing. I think it's a great, place to take the game to. Just being able to enhance builds, utilize just more of the game rather than having, 2 builds just spammed repeatedly over and over. It gets really boring really quickly. And with Trapper, you were pretty much taking a bag was mandatory, so you were pretty much stuck with only having one add-on every single time you played Trapper. Otherwise, your experience was just incredibly miserable. And since the change, I have messed around with a lot of the add-ons more, and I kind of just wanted to go over which ones I like, kind of put them on a rank system. I kind of want to go over each one quickly and kind of just give my thoughts. Because you definitely have a lot more variety to what you can do now, and it's just amazing. So I kind of just thought I'd kind of go over it. While I do this, obviously this is all just my opinion. Don't take what I'm saying like to heart. Like, obviously you might watch somebody else and they're like, oh man, this add-on's crazy good, and I'm probably gonna be like, nah, this add-on kind of sucks. It's my opinion. You can disagree with me all you want. You can let me know in the comments or whatever. If you disagree, I actually talk with you about it. But it's all my opinion, don't take it to heart. But yeah, let me get started. I'll start with the commons and kind of just make my way up to the ultra rares. Go on a line, I guess. First, starting with Trapper Glove. I used to value the trap setting speed a lot. Whenever you were playing, typically taking like, you would always take like a bag and then a trap setting add-on. That was mainly to minimize the amount of time that you were wasting. You didn't want to have to, walk around and pick up traps, so you obviously took a bag, but you also wanted to set the traps down really quickly because it was kind of like go, go, go. You didn't really have time to kind of mess around or kind of mess with stuff when you're playing Trapper. You're kind of already on a clock, just playing Trapper and having to do the, big, early game setup that you already have to do. So it kind of helped just getting traps down really quickly. But since the update, it's not something that is really a necessity to have anymore. It's still nice just being able to plop traps down in less than a second. But I don't think it's something that's as necessary as it was before. If I was to rank this, it'd probably be on the middle and or lower spectrum of my list. It really isn't. I don't think the setting speed's a really high priority thing anymore. It's a pretty nice quality of life thing, but I don't think it really is necessary for just enjoying the Trapper anymore. So I think middle to lower is where I'd put this. Padded Jaws. I don't think anything changed. Yeah, nothing changed. It doesn't even actually allow you to get the added effects of Rusted Jaw or Serrated Jaw. In case you don't know, Rusted Jaw, mangled. Serrated will be Hemorrhage. So this doesn't even work as like a niche way to get like in effects onto people with traps instead of, you know, getting into injured or dying state. It's purely just a add-on to make your match a little bit more difficult for yourself. And it really doesn't serve any other purpose other than to, you know, kind of make it more difficult for you. So this one's kind of, you know, at the bottom. It's always been there. I don't really think they plan on changing this one too much. This one, the makeshift raft is, or makeshift wrap is really interesting. I've kind of thought of a few ways you can apply this to actual matches. Two of them stand out to me as the most like probable. And that is one, you know, let's say for example, you're playing on like Yamoka's and you're playing at a short loop and it has like two massive boulders and the trapper has a trap on a pallet in between those two boulders. Usually survivors that are pretty decent at the game and recognize that this is a really long loop now, they'll just run around it and force the trapper to just run around circles and just waste a ton of time before they divert to like a window or like a pallet or something. Whereas with this add-on, you can actually catch people off guard that are doing something like this or that are playing around your traps like this and don't know that you have it. And you can actually just walk right through the trap and then just get a free hit or a free down or, you know, free whatever. You can just take advantage of the fact that they don't know that you can just walk through your trap. The other thing that I think this could be used for is, it's more of a cheese build than anything. If you have some kind of a setup in like a main building, kind of like Shack or like a signature building on, you know, maps, you know, like Hannafield's, like the Myers house or something, you can actually set up just a nest of traps for like a basement build. I guess essentially it would be more for like a basement build kind of thing. And you could have this set up to where you could walk through your traps and get to the basement really easily, and then just reset everything up so it's a, you know, just a death trap to go and rescue somebody. But that's honestly the two applications I see this. I'll probably rank it if I do on the lower end. It's not really like an average perk there. It's not like great, but like it can work in cheeses, but that's about it. Otherwise it's okay to have. I mean, it's nothing really game changing, I don't think. The bear oil. Actually, no, let's backtrack. I guess this allows you, this actually just popped in my head. This actually allows you to kind of mind game people a lot more than you'd be able to if you had a trap at a pallet. It'll definitely screw with people that have dead hard as well, that dead hard to the opposite side, and kind of try to abuse that. This lets you kind of just negate a dead hard, I guess, which is actually kind of powerful, but like, it's a really specific situation. I know it does occur a lot with people, so you're so like, yeah, that happens to me all the time. You have to have that happen and then be running this add-on at the same time. So unless you're spamming this add-on, it doesn't really, you know, you're not gonna see that very often, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's like the third thing that I could possibly think of. All right, now actually onto the bear oil. So this one makes it so that you set a trap silently. I think you could use this in unison with tar bottle. Generally, I think being able to set a trap silently is really good if you're trying to mind game survivors. I know a really popular mind game that was discovered was just pretending to put a trap down while you're at the middle of a loop. Usually most survivors will default to just running away from the loop. They won't try and engage with that loop if they're seeing it get trapped. Obviously you can't loop it if it's trapped, so most people will just start running away. A lot of experienced people though, they'll actually kind of wait it out and see if you actually go through with most of the animation and actually set the trap, and they might actually just stay there and waste your time with the loop more. Whereas if you're using this, they can't hear it, so it's purely based off of your animation and actually like finishing it. And if the player can actually tell if, like, you know, there's obstacles in the way and they can't actually tell that you're, you know, setting down the trap, usually they'd rely on sound. But since this negates the sound entirely, some people won't know if you actually put the trap down or not. So it actually lets you mind game really hard. And, you know, let's say you're on Macmillan and you have a tar bottle. They won't even be able to see it. They won't hear it. They won't be able to tell. They won't be able to see it. There's no indicator that you put a trap down. That's like the ultimate mind game. They don't even know that it's there. And they're kind of just hoping that you actually didn't do it. So I think this is actually a pretty deadly combo. And I think that's probably one of the only applications where this thing is actually crazy good. Otherwise, being able to set traps silently doesn't really matter too much unless you're like setting traps like around people that are hooked, I guess. And they won't be able to like tell their friends, like, hey, he just put a trap down right here. You know, they won't hear you put down a trap. They'll just, you know, they won't see you. They'll just hear your terror radius. But other than that, like, it doesn't really do too much. I'd probably rank it, you know, below medium. It's pretty much, it's only like two applications. There really isn't any other point to it. The wax brick. So the wax brick is, well, it increases the time that it requires for a survivor to rescue or for you to attempt to escape from it. Typically, you'd want to use this if you're wanting to secure downs off of your traps, or to just make it a little more difficult for people to rescue people from your traps. More so, the thing you're wanting from it is trying to escape from the trap themselves. Basically, what that mainly allows you to do is, you know, let's say you're a decent distance away from the trap. If it takes them longer each attempt to try and escape, it lets you get closer and closer to actually secure the down on your trap. And that can be really, really useful, especially if you're playing on like a wide map. You know, like let's say you take yourself to Coldwind and, you know, for some reason you wanted to go to Coldwind and you're playing Trapper. You could put, you know, traps on certain loops where people just casually walk sometimes and you'll hit somebody, but sometimes the map is too big, like if you're on Rotten Fields, and you won't actually even be able to capitalize off of it. With this, you might have the potential to. It definitely increases your chances of doing it, but it doesn't really guarantee it, so it's kind of just an average add-on. I'd probably put this one in the middle. It doesn't, there's no bad effects to it. There, you know, it can help. It can actually be really powerful when it does work, but it's pretty inconsistent. It's only 33%. And, you know, escaping is RNG to begin with, so, you know, it can be great, it can be awful. It's kind of just in the middle. Serrated Jaws. So, when you have these add-ons that apply effects, it kind of depends on the effect. I mean, honestly, the effect is what determines how useful it is. Something like this one isn't all that great. If you don't know what Hemorrhage is, basically it is sort of like Sloppy Butcher. It stops, well, it doesn't stop anything. It doesn't let you stop bleeding, I guess, is what I was trying to say. But essentially you're dropping blood everywhere. Like, you leave a really easy blood trail to follow. It's really good for tracking. My one gripe with this kind of add-on, though, let's go back to Rotten Fields. Let's say you are across the map on Rotten Fields and someone walks into your trap. This add-on is only useful if you can apply pressure to someone right after they're on your trap. And usually you want them to be down, instead. But, let's say they escape and they have this hemorrhage effect now and you're nowhere near them. This add-on doesn't matter at all, because if you're not near them and, they have a teammate or they can just heal themselves, they're just going to get healed, and the extra tracking doesn't matter at all. It is pretty much entirely circumstantial that they get trapped and no one rescues them. They escape and then they can't heal, and no one wants to heal, or no one heals them, rather. Not that no one wants to heal them, no one's around to heal them. That's the only time you're going to get value out of this add-on, and I think it just makes it really, really weak. And I'd probably rank this one really, really low because of that. There's nothing really to guarantee you're going to get the tracking out of it. It's kind of just taking up an add-on space for some possible tracking, which really isn't all that great. So if I do rank this one really low, it's probably the lowest of the low. It's probably right next to Padded Jaws. This one, on the other hand, is a good effect to have apply. Jeez, that voice crack, goodness. This is a good effect to have apply. Especially the deep wound one, because then if they don't pay attention, they can actually go down. I know it happens to new players all the time. But if you don't know what deep wound is, basically it's the mode right before you're about to go down. People like Legion apply it. If you play Survivor a lot, you'll probably run into the perk Borrowed Time. Basically, if it was to put you in the dying state, it gives you an extra health state to just keep running, but you have to mend yourself, otherwise you'll go into the dying state anyways. So you have to waste time mending yourself from the deep wound, because it's essentially you bleeding out. Um, what I mean, the way that's good though is, or at least better than Hemorrhage, is that this one forces you to waste time doing something, which means if I have this equipped and someone hits my trap and they're trying to run away and go to a gen, they actually can't work on that gen. Well, they could, but they run the risk of just going down to this. They have to do this no matter what. It doesn't matter what they want to do. If they want to keep working on that gen, they have to take time out of their match to deep wound or to mend themselves. And so basically it's basically adds on to slowdown that you could possibly already have, you know, as far as perks. Usually if you were to go for slowdown, I'd recommend you to do it through your perks anyways. But this is just a nice, you know, it's a cherry on top. It just adds to the effect of, you know, if people keep hitting your traps, they're going to have to deep wound and waste time, you know, mending themselves. And if they want to heal, they have to waste time healing themselves. And it just adds on to, you know, seconds of time that could be really valuable to Trapper. So if I was to rank this, it'd probably be the middle or just above middle. I actually really like this. I like add-ons like this that kind of just inconvenience survivors, or that is inconvenient to survivors rather, if they kind of accidentally, you know, make a mess up or a screw up. Coffee grounds. So I'm kind of torn at what to think about this perk. I like to compare it to one of the trap setting speed ones because the way it benefits you is somewhat similar. For example, if you know you're setting traps down really fast, you're saving a lot of time up front. But you know, let's say you set, you know, a trap down and you're going across the map after you set that trap down. It would be just as beneficial to have this thing, even though you set the trap a little bit slower. The 5% haste makes up all the distance that you're going to lose on this, and probably actually makes a little bit more. So this is actually really good for kind of getting around the map while you're setting up your traps. I don't necessarily think it's anything that's overpowered. I haven't at least personally been able to pull it off myself. But I don't think it's something that you can use at loops to kind of, you know, instead of mind gaming, you know, putting a trap down, you just full on commit to putting a trap down and then just try and abuse the speed boost. I haven't really been able to pull it off. There aren't too many loops where you can do that at and like still successfully get a hit. I definitely think you can force pallets down though, or force dead hards out. But for me, it's been really difficult getting a hit. Usually I end up getting a pallet or something instead. But I definitely think it's something that's really powerful. Just being able to move around the map a little bit faster after you set traps down. I don't really think it's above average of an add-on, but I know it's not a weak add-on because this actually could be really, really useful. So I'd probably put this right in the dead middle. I think it's actually really useful. The 4-coil spring kit basically increases the time it takes to disarm traps. One really nice thing about the bag change is that you can now afford to actually have disarm speed add-ons. And these work really, really well when you're running totem builds. So I think this actually it synergizes really, really well if you're running any kind of totem perk, you know, like Devour Hope or something. If you're protecting a Devour Hope, having one of these in the way is a total pain in the butt to survivors. And I think it's just a lot more powerful now that you don't have to waste a slot for a bag. So I would definitely rate this in the middle or maybe above average. This used to be one of the king of all add-ons. This probably used to be S tier with the other bags no matter what, because just having extra traps was just the best thing on Trapper. I actually think this one is probably one of the worst add-ons out of all his add-ons now. I know a lot of people are going to be like, what? But before, it was almost a necessity to have bag add-on. It was a necessity to give up one of your slots to have extra traps. Otherwise, you pretty much wasted the whole match just setting up traps. You now have that built into your base kit. This add-on isn't a necessity anymore. It's just an addition to, you know, something you used to have to take that you don't have to anymore. I think this add-on was made irrelevant, and I'm actually surprised they even kept it in. It's nice carrying 3 traps and being able to move, you know, 3 traps, but it's a little bit overkill. You really don't need 3 traps on your person like ever. And usually that's a bad thing if you have 3 traps on you. It means you're not abusing the full extent of your kit. So I actually rank this probably just as low, if not slightly above Padded Jaws. I know it's not as useless as Padded Jaws, but I guess my point is that this shouldn't be an add-on you take like ever again anymore on Trapper. It's not needed anymore. You could definitely put almost just about anything else on this page in its place, and it would benefit you 1,000 times more than just having an extra trap. So I definitely think this is probably one of the worst add-ons that he has now, if not one of the weakest ones, next to Padded Jaws, honestly. I know some people are gonna like carrying 3 traps, and you know, feel free to disagree with me, but I don't think it's good to be carrying 3 traps. I don't think it's a benefit anymore. I think it's more of a hindrance when you're giving up one of these other add-ons. Tar Bottle. It makes your traps incredibly difficult to see, especially on certain maps. One thing, I haven't tested this. I was actually kind of curious. I probably should have checked this before I did this video. But I wonder if the traps, the darkness level of them is stagnant at the black version, because it can be really hard to see on maps like Macmillan, where the ground is like a really dark brown and it blends in really well. But I wonder if it blends in with different environments. So if it was on like Coldwind, it'd be more of a like a light dark brown, more of like a caramel dark brown, rather than like full on pitch black. Because if it's full on pitch black, it's gonna stand out really hard on like Coldwind maps. It's gonna stand out a little bit more, on like Larry's and whatnot. And I was wondering, maybe instead of just darkening it, they should just make it more adaptive to its environment, so that it's just harder to see in general, not just, darkening it. Because darkening it's not always good. Sometimes it makes it stand out way, way more than it should. But, that's something for the devs to go over. I think it would be really cool if it kind of blended in with its environment more. Regardless, I think this is one of his better add-ons. I definitely think it's above average. I probably won't put this in the middle. I think it's really useful on a majority of the maps in the game. So usually, more often than not, it's really good to take this add-on. So similar to the 4 coil, the secondary coil, it's just the 4 coil but way better. If you use this with any kind of totem build, it's really, really nice. Just slowing down survivors' abilities to disarm your traps. If they're constantly doing it, they're wasting a lot of time doing it. If you're have really close chases, or you have people constantly doing it, you can kind of catch them off in really tricky situations where they're trying to break your trap and they can't because they're having to waste extra time. Overall, I think it's just really nice having that disarm time now. I think it really enhances a lot of different builds with him. But yeah, it's probably the same level as this one. It's just a tiny bit longer. I think it adds maybe like a 3/4 of an extra second rather than this one, or 3/4 more than this one rather. But it's not like crazy better than this one. They're probably about the same level. It's not too different. The Rusted Jaws. So comparing it to the other Jaws add-ons that we have, this one is also one that actually slows the match down a tiny bit, unlike this guy. This one, whenever they do decide to heal, they have the mangled effect, which, if you don't know what mangled is, it basically slows down your healing. It actually says it. Increases time required to heal by 25% and lasts until you're fully healed. So no matter what, until you fully heal yourself, you're going to have this mangled effect. And until you do heal yourself, it's always going to be a slow heal. Unless you have like med kits and healing perks and whatnot, then you won't really notice. But this one will force survivors to waste extra time healing, and usually most people are going to want to be in the healthy state. They're not going to want to be injured. So no matter what, this is getting you just a little bit extra time from people trying to heal. And I like that it's similar to Deep Wound, where they're having to waste time mending themselves and then healing. It's probably roughly about the same time. I probably should have timed it out, but it's probably roughly the same time. So they're both really nice add-ons if you want just that little extra cherry on top of game slowdown. You could probably even run both, and that's just annoying. Honestly, that'd probably piss me off. Anyways, on to fastening tools. This one has setting speed and it has the time required to escape or to rescue someone. This one's probably a middle of the pack. Like, it's not crazy good, but like it's not really weak. It combines setting speed along with you know, stuff like the wax brick kind of helps you get closer to people. It's lower percentages, but or a lower percentage rather, but I don't think that matters too much. You're kind of benefiting from the setting speed a lot. But it's not weak, but it's not necessarily crazy strong. So I'd probably just put this in the middle. I don't think there's too much else to say about it. This add-on. So I had a lot of hopes for this. I know a lot of people probably think this add-on's like crazy busted. You know, oh man, Trapper gets all his traps at the beginning. Not being able to pick up your trap ever again is a really hefty stipulation. Like, I don't think people understand how, like, that is. Unless you're doing some kind of, like, niche, like, basement build, that is terrible. Like, you can set your traps up, like, you know, let's say you're playing, you know, what's a good map? Let's say you're playing on Gas Heaven on Autohaven, okay? And let's say your basement spawned in the gas station. You can trap that gas station to hell and back. And that will be great if you get people into the basement. But if you don't, and you commit to doing that kind of a build and setup, your traps are stuck there forever. Now, they might not be able to loop it. They might not be able to play around in it. But you're basically Machete Man, and all your traps are protecting all the, you know, macaroni sitting on the shelves in the gas station. They're not doing anything. You're basically Machete Man hoping everybody just runs into you. Or somehow doesn't notice that you have 20 traps, or, you know, 8 traps set up at, you know, the gas station. I think this add-on is purely good for cheese, or running something like, you know, the Trapper Sack and then the Iridescent Stone. And then you just set it up at really common loops, like, you know, like Shack, and like really powerful, you know, like power loops, like, you know, Cow Tree on Cold Wind or something. And you just set it up at really like generic like loops, like long, you know, jungle gyms with long walls and stuff. Just places that players are going to consistently play that are strong. You can set those up there and just negate them entirely. But past that, unless you're blowing like good add-ons on it, or you're doing like a cheese build with like Trapper Sack and, you know, this one to go into the basement, like I said earlier, it's a really crappy add-on. Like, I know the idea of it, you know, sounds crazy good. Like, oh man, you're carrying all your traps. But like, not being able to pick them up is a massive stipulation that I think people really overlook. Because Trapper is very influential around his sphere of traps. If they're avoiding them, you're not Trapper anymore. You're Machete Man. You literally change your identity in the game. And being able to pick up your traps and adapt to that situation of them playing over here instead of over there, it's really good. But this just gets rid of that entirely. So I think this is probably right next to this guy as terms of just how useful it is. You know, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. They're both the bag add-ons, but like, it's not a perk I'd put in the middle. It's probably below the middle, but like, it's not the worst. Like, I know it does have applications to it and it can be really good. Mainly the most busted one is probably this one, but like, that's only if you have this add-on, and that makes this one a bad add-on. Like, this one's already good on its own. If this, how good this one is makes this one better, it's just because this one's amazing. This one's still the king of all his add-ons. And it takes the king of all his add-ons to make this one good, which means this one's terrible. So I kind of rank this one really, really low, whereas other people might rank this one really, really high. I haven't really seen what too many people have said about it, but I think when it was coming out, everybody was freaking out about, like, oh man, he's getting carry all his traps, holy smokes. But like, yeah, it's not that good. It just isn't. Really isn't. Tension Spring. I really wanted them to have a different purple add-on that was great. I was hoping this one would be great, but this one just sucks. It if you have someone, you know, get trapped across the map and they escape, you know, it's good, yada yada yada. You have that, you have, you know, wax brick, you know, you're trying to do a thing where they can't, you know, they can't get away from your trap. You're trying to reach them before they get out, and they do manage to get out. Unless you're there putting pressure on them, the trap's gonna reset itself before they even walk away, and they can just disarm it right after it comes back. And that's if they get trapped in it. Any other application, this thing is useless. That's it. Like, there's nothing else to this thing. It's so simple, and it has the potential to be good, but it just isn't, because the situation for it to be good just rarely ever happens. And unfortunately, since it rarely ever happens, it's rarely ever useful. And for me, I think one day I played 20 matches. I tried using this thing in over half of them, and it never procced once, unfortunately. So I don't find value from this thing. Like, it's something you could possibly use at Shack, you know, have people panic vault it, to get caught. Unless you're there, you know, it doesn't matter. They're gonna just, you know, break it. They're gonna check it again. Someone's gonna check it again and just get rid of it. So it isn't a good add-on, and unfortunately, it's probably down there at, you know, the actual bottom with padded jaws, because I find it very hard to get value out of this thing, and I don't think it's good. The oily coil. This is by far one of my favorite ones that has come out. I like mixing the oily coil with the bloody coil. Mainly because with the bloody coil, once they injure themselves, you know, disarming your trap, if you go and rearm it, it'll tell you where they are for 5 seconds, and you just get information on somebody that's, you know, one hit. You know, you may as well go get them. And I just find it really nice, you know, just having that little extra bit of information from resetting your trap. Because you might even, you know, reveal your little trap destroying goblin that's just sitting around the corner once you reset your trap, that's just waiting for you to walk away again. So I definitely think it's a pretty useful add-on. It just, information in general is really useful, and this, you know, this provides really good information. So I'd rate it probably above average. I actually really like it a lot. And then there's these three. These three are plain and simple his best add-ons. They always have been. They probably always will be. I will go through them, but they are all the highest rank I can give on a tier list. The Honing Stone, essentially, if you were to run into a trap and try to escape, let's say you succeeded at escaping, instead of getting up and running away like the free man you are, you fall into the dying state, because Honing Stone does not let you escape on your own. It forces you to wait for somebody to rescue you, and if nobody rescues you, you're getting caught by the trapper, or you're killing yourself trying to escape. That is incredibly powerful, because it essentially forces you to be stuck, and that's just a really potent effect on survivor teams. Iridescent Stone, having your traps reset themselves is a godsend. Basically, if you want an easy mode match, you just slap this bad boy on, take whatever else you want now. You don't even need a bag. You can use whatever the heck you want, and you're probably bound to have a pretty good match. Not having to worry about resetting your traps at all is super high quality of life trapper gameplay. Like, you could just set up certain spots you don't like, and then just go play Machete Man, and your traps will do the work for you. Like, it's a busted add-on, but like, it's not crazy, but like, it is really, really powerful. And then there's Bloody Coil. Out of all of these three, this is the only one that's slightly changed. I know before it used to slightly increase the time it took for you to disarm the trap. That is now gone, but it still does the injuring. So, you know, you disarm traps just a tiny bit faster, but it still takes the health state away from you. That's still crazy good. It's a free health state. That's not weak. You'll pretty much, people will either get trapped, or they're going to be giving you free health states at loops all the time. Super duper powerful, especially if you combo with, you know, other add-ons and stuff like the oily coil and stuff. But these three are always going to be at the top. They're crazy powerful. And that's the new trapper. I'll go ahead and post the tier list. Kind of get it posted up right about now, I suppose. But that's just kind of my overall thoughts of all his add-ons. I thought they made some really amazing changes, and it definitely allows you to spice up, Trapper's gameplay in general instead of being shoehorned into taking, a bag in trap setting speed or a trap, bag in any of these other, like top tier add-ons like the Iridescent Stone or whatever, just to have a okay game. You can actually use other stuff like the disarm speed ones now, or any of the serrated jaws or not serrated jaws, the lengthened jaws and rusted jaws and stuff. It allows you to have way more build room. One of my favorite builds recently actually has been corrupt intervention, deadlock, undying, and then devour. And it's actually been working out for me really, really well, especially since now that he has these disarm time ones, you can actually just use one of these and it makes totems just way more difficult, especially if they spawn in good spots for survivors to deal with. And it just makes running devour like just so much more enjoyable on Trapper because it adds that extra step, that extra little step for them to kind of just ruin your match getting rid of devour. And it just makes it way more powerful. So it's definitely a build I've been enjoying recently. But I just thought this was overall a really good change and a really healthy change for the game, kind of just improving on one of the original killers. And I just kind of thought I'd put my opinions out there. I think this is probably one of the best changes that came out of that patch, besides, the Dead Art update recently. That one was really good. But yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Leave a like. Let me know what you think. Hopefully I'll be making more stuff like this in the future. And yeah, see you around. Bye bye.